Iran's streets are once again echoing with anger and defiance. From crowded streets to social media feeds, protesters are openly questioning the government's policies. As Aman Kumar Himanshu reports, what is happening today in Iran marks a bold and determined wave of resistance, one that could potentially reshape the country's future.
The protests began on 28 December in Tehran, where shopkeepers at the city's largest mobile phone market went on strike over high prices and economic stagnation. They complained that the government had offered no support to storekeepers battling soaring import costs. Soon, more Iranians came out on the streets, voicing their anger over the country's worsening economic situation. Iran's currency Rial had crashed past 42,000 to the US dollar. Inflation had surged beyond 42%, sharply eroding the purchasing power in a country of 92 million people. And prices of food and medicine had soared, pushing many Iranians to the brink. The protest forced the resignation of the chief of Iran's central bank. The government had since appointed former Economy and Finance Minister Abdul Nasir Hemmati as the new central bank governor. By the 30th, university students had joined the fray, shifting the focus from economic grievances to open calls for regime change. In several places, protesters have been taken into custody and universities have been raided. Protesters attempted to break into a local government building in Fars province in the south of the country. According to reports, tear gas and live ammunition were used in some areas. At least 6 people have been killed. State TV reported that a member of Iran's Basij security force was among those killed. The Basij is a volunteer paramilitary force linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guards, the ideological branch of the Islamic Republic's army. President Masoud Pezeshkian, who has less authority under Iran's system of government than Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, met with labor leaders and made proposals to tackle the economic crisis. He said in a social media post that he has asked the interior minister to listen to the legitimate demands of the protesters by engaging in dialogue with their representatives so that the government can do everything in its power to resolve problems and act responsibly.
People are dissatisfied. We are at fault. You are at fault. Do not go after America as the one to blame. Do not go after, I don't know, some other person. It is we who must serve and they must be satisfied with us. It is we who must properly manage our resources. It is we who must find a way and solve the problem. It is we who must make the efforts and find solution to these problems for them.
A video showing a person sitting in the middle of a Tehran street facing down motorcycle police went viral on social media. Some described it as a Tiananmen moment, a reference to the famous image of a Chinese protesters defying a column of tanks during 1989 anti-government protests in Beijing. But Iranian state television claimed that the footage had been staged to create a symbol. A jailed dissident leader, Mustafa Tajzadeh, said that the time has come for all those who want a prosperous, free and independent Iran to speak with one voice. A former US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said that the people of Iran deserve a representative government that serves their interests. Israel's spy agency Mossad issued a direct call urging Iranians to press on with the protests. Israel's army radio reported on Wednesday that a Mossad post on its Farsi language X account read, "Go out into the streets together. The time has come. We are with you, not just from a distance or through words. We are also with you on the ground." It followed an August 2025 message from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the people of Iran.
The tyrants of Tehran preferred sending hundreds of billions of dollars, not to you, to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Houthis, instead of funding your hospitals, your schools, and your roads. It doesn't have to be this way. I urge you to be bold and brave, to dare to dream. Take risks for freedom, for your future, for your families. It's worth it. Take to the streets, demand justice, demand accountability, protest tyranny, build a better future for your families and for all Iranians.
Some videos showed protesters chanting slogans in support of Reza Pahlavi. A member of the Pahlavi dynasty, he is the eldest son of Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran. Pahlavi lives in exile in the US. On 1st January, he called for the birth of a new Iran and end to what he described as 46 years of terror and chaos under the Islamic Republic. He urged Iranians to continue their struggle and appealed to the international community to support the protesters. The current domestic fury is, in some ways, linked to the economic distress caused by Western sanctions on Iran in general and the 12-day Iran-Israel war on June 2025 in particular. The war resulted in more than 1,000 casualties and the destruction of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran's economy was further strained after the United Nations in late September reinstated international sanctions linked to its nuclear program that were lifted 10 years ago. It left some Iranians convinced that the regime's ideological foreign policy is the direct cause of their destitution. The Iranian government is caught in a vicious cycle of its own making. It cannot stabilize the economy without lifting sanctions. It cannot lift sanctions without changing its core ideology, and it cannot pacify the public without stabilizing the economy. The current state of the Iranian regime is much like a tightrope walker who has discovered that the rope is frayed at both ends. It is unable to reform the country's economy without risking a political collapse, yet unable to stand still as the wind of public fury grows stronger. US President Donald Trump has squared the pitch by threatening further military action against Iran if it attempts to rebuild its nuclear or missile programs or if Hamas does not disarm. Iran is widely considered the primary backer of the Palestinian military group Hamas, providing significant financial and military support.
I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel.
The latest protests are the biggest since 2022, when the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in police custody triggered widespread demonstrations in Iran and outside too. Amini was arrested by the country's morality police for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. A hijab is a veil worn by Muslim women to cover their hair, neck, and sometimes shoulders. The protests shook the Iranian regime and drew global condemnation over the violent crackdown that followed. Amini's custodial death sparked the Women Life Freedom protests, which continued into 2023. Iranian women posted videos on social media of themselves cutting their hair in protest. Soon, women from around the world joined the protest by cutting their hair in solidarity with Amini. Iran has seen similar protests over the years. In 2021, a shortage of water and bread ignited a new wave of protest. In 2019, protests broke out over a spike in fuel prices. Protests over economic distress broke out again in 2017 and 2018. 2009 saw Iranians again taking to the streets as part of what came out to be known as Green Movement in support of democratic reforms. And a student-led protest broke out in 1999 and 2000 against the closure of a reformist newspaper and subsequent police raid on a dormitory in which a student was killed. Iran is restless again. Crowds are gathering, voices are rising. Will something give? Will anything change? Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.